Hey you guys, thank you for joining me. Today we'll be doing a ruffled shorts DIY using McCalls Pattern Company 6930. As you can see, I've gone ahead and I've cut out my pattern piece. Then I went ahead and I made my markings. I have my dots here. What I did not do is I did not make my markings for the dart, because once you cut down the center to put in the gathered piece, then it's basically going to replace the dart. I also went ahead and I made a loose stitch 3/8 of an inch along the seam of the short. That way when I go to measure my halfway point, I will have the end right here to show me where my stitching will be. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to measure from this point to this over here. My measurement is for this is 7.5 inches right here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to find my halfway point, which is about here. Now I'm going to take my rotary blade and I'm going to cut following the marking line straight up the center of my short. Now we have 2 halves of a shorts, you guys. Now, moving on to our next step. Without that extra seam allowance added, the shorts won't fit properly. There won't be any room in between, because when we first cut the pattern piece out, it was meant to be a short as a whole together. It was not meant to be cut in half. That's something that we did to create these DIY shorts that we're making. So because of that, once we cut it, there's no seam allowance. So we had to add that seam allowance to each side of the shorts. And I did that by taking a white piece of art paper, laying my fabric on top of it, and then I measured 1/2 inch from the edge of the shorts to the end of the paper. And once I did that, I taped the paper and the shorts together. And to make sure that it did not fall apart or that wasn't too flimsy, I went ahead and I took the back of the paper and I taped it to the shorts. So as I flipped or made any necessary adjustments, I don't have to worry about it coming apart or just looking flimsy. So I taped the back and I taped the front to it to keep everything in place and everything secure. What I did here, you guys, is I used a white piece of art paper to add 1/2 inch seam allowance to each side of my short. I'm going to gather my piece. Once you gather that, you're taking inches away from the fabric itself. So what I'm going to do is write down that number in my book, 12.5, so that I don't forget it. And then our next step will be to get our peplum piece cut and then get that prepared to gather for later. 12.5, so that I don't forget. Okay, you guys, our next step will be to measure how wide we want ours to be. I don't want mine that wide. I only want mine to be about 2 inches wide. So I'm going to cut 2.5 inches wide. The reason why I'm cutting it 2.5 inches wide is because I need the extra 1/2 inch for my seam allowance. So I'm going to measure 2.5 inches right here. And I'm going to do that to the end as well. About right here. 2.5 inches. So I'm cutting mine 25 inches long because my shorts are 12.5 inches long and I need to double that up for when I gather my piece. So I'm going to mark from here to here 25 inches long. Then I'm going to get my rotary blade and I'm going to cut that piece. And we've got our piece, you guys, our 25 inches long. Okay, you guys, now we have all of our fabric cut. We have our back of our shorts. We have our front of our shorts that we altered for the ruffled piece. And we cut the fabric for that. Remember, we're going to cut two. We're going to lay this down on our fabric. We're going to cut two. And we're going to cut two of the other side as well. And just like the direction on the pattern tells us, we're going to cut the back, the pocket, and all the other pieces. The only piece we altered is the front of the shorts, and we added four strips for the ruffles. Now, the first thing we're going to tackle are the ruffles. We're going to go ahead and prep everything before we put our shorts together. We are going to go ahead and we're going to put our two ruffles, because we cut 4 strips of this. We're going to take our 2 ruffles and we're going to stitch them on one side. We're going to stitch about 5/8 of an inch seam on one side, and we're going to stitch about a 1/4 inch seam on the top portion and on the bottom portion. So let's go over to our sewing machine and we're going to go ahead and stitch that up. So now, you guys, we have our front pieces and we have our gathered piece right here. And what we're going to do next, well, first let me just show you this area. As you can see up top, I have stitched a loose stitch, a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance at the top of my shorts, because I want to make sure that my gathered piece does not go past this point, because that is where we're going to place our waistband. So I went ahead and serged that just so I'll know where to start the top piece of my gathered piece of my fabric. So we are going to take this and we're going to lay it flat. See, it's going to lay flat about right below this line. Not on that stitch line, but like a little bit below this line. And then we're going to take it and we're going to go and take it all the way down and we're going to pin it in place. So as you can see, you guys, I've gone ahead and I've taken my gathered piece and I've stitched it to this side of my short. But what I did also is, as I was sewing, I realized the gathering was a bit tight and I wanted to make sure that it was gathered but loose enough to where it laid flat. It lay flat right here onto that piece of the short. So what I did was I went ahead and loosened it up, and then on the end it was a little too long, you guys. It was about this much more room left on the gathered piece. So I took my scissors and I clipped it a bit. And then I went to sewing machine and I took this gathered piece and I tacked it down by taking my sewing machine and I just went and did a back stitch and forward stitch on here, back and forth in that same place, just back and forth for about 2 times to make sure it's tacked in place so that where my gathering piece ends, it will stay gathered and it won't come loose from where I have cut it. Okay, you guys, so now that we realized that the piece was a little too long, we've gone ahead and we've clipped it all the way down to about the length of the shorts, about right here. Then we're going to reflip it back to where it was, right side in and wrong side out. And we're going to clip it and re-stitch the bottom. But make sure you pin it, you guys, so that everything will stay in place and nothing will shift out of whack. And then we're just going to take off sewing machine and we're going to follow this step again. And then we're going to take this and we're going to clip the end of this and then clip this area right here. And then we're going to turn it right side out again. All right, you guys, so I've got my gathered piece onto my shorts. As you can see, I went ahead, as I told you before, on the sewing machine, and I took this and put it wrong side out and restitched the bottom so it'll be the right length. And then I restitched it and turned it back right side out, and this is what you'll get. Everything's right back to where it should be. And then I left, as you can see, when I pinned it to the shorts, to the inner part of the shorts, I went ahead and I made sure I left a little bit here for my hem allowance. I want to make sure I have enough space to still hem the bottom of my shorts, because this is not going to be hemmed into the short. Now, as we have our pieces together, I'm going to take the other side of the shorts and I'm going to place it right sides together. And then I am going to take the pin and take these sides together, and I'm going to pin the two sides together with all three pieces together. The one side is short, the other side is short, and the gathered piece in the center. And once I do that, I'm going to take this sewing machine and I'm going to stitch it at 1/2 inch all the way down. It's time to celebrate, you guys. The front piece of our short is done. Yay! So we've got our ruffle in the front inseam and on this side as well. So now that we're done with that part of our DIY, now we move on to follow the directions for the other portions of the shorts as given to us by the pattern that we are using. So we are going to take the pocket for our front of our shorts and we are going to pin it into place onto this area of our shorts. Not the outer area, but this area of our short as given to us by directions on the pattern. We're going to pin it all the way, and then we're going to take this sewing machine and we're going to stitch it 5/8 inch, and we're going to stop our stitch right here. We're not going to go down this area. We're only going to stitch from here all the way to here. Okay, you guys, so I have taken my pockets and I stitched it right sides together to my shorts, and then I turned it in and I did an understitch because I want, when I put my shorts on the inside, it lays flat and you don't have to worry about it pushing upwards out of your shorts. This stitch will keep it flat and in place. That's why I understitched it. And now we have a clean pocket on the inside. So our next step is to take our pocket, our inner pants front, and we are going to stitch that to our pocket on the back end. We're going to stitch at 5/8 inch all the way around, and we are going to stop here. We're not going to go up here, you guys, or your hand won't have anywhere to go when we're done. You won't have any pockets. So we're just going to stitch from here all the way to here. So once I stitch my pockets all the way around, remove these pins out of the way since everything's in place. Okay, I've stitched my pocket all the way around, and then I flip my short piece back over and I lay everything flat, and then I go to the machine and I do a loose stitch across just to make sure everything stays in place and does not move around for when I get ready to put all my shorts together and add my waistband. So now that the front of our shorts is done, we are going to move on to the back of our shorts. As you can see, we put in place for a dart in the back of our shorts. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this machine and we're going to create our darts by connecting each dot together. So we're going to fold it in like so. And what I usually do is I take a pin and I put a pin from one side of the dot to the next to connect it, and that's how I know everything's in place where it's supposed to be. And then we will stitch the dart from here all the way down to the end and carry it off to the machine, and then tie the ends off to make sure everything's nice and neat and in place. So that is our next step, you guys. Let's get to it. Okay, you guys, since we've gotten our shorts together, we put our pockets together, and we have our ruffles on our shorts, we're going to attach the back of the shorts to the front of the shorts at the crotch seam. We're going to do that for both pieces of our shorts. Okay, you guys, now that we've done our crotch seam, we're going to line up both of our shorts together. So back is going to be lined up with the back and the front is going to be lined up with the front. And then we're going to pin everything in place right around the crotch area. And what we're going to do is we are going to stitch. Once we line everything up, we're going to pin everything in place, and we're going to stitch from this portion right here where there's a dot. From this dot here, we're going to stitch from here all the way around to the end of this right here. So we're going to stitch, make sure everything's lined up in place, you guys. We're going to stitch from here, this dot right here, all the way here. Then we're going to come back and we're going to loose stitch from here up here. Loose stitch. We're not going to do a straight stitch. We're going to do a loose stitch because this is where our zipper is going to go. Now everything is where it needs to be, you guys. So our next step is, remember what I told you, that you were going to do a long stitch along here up to this dot right here. Now you're going to put your zipper on, and your zipper stop is going to stop at that large dot area right here. This is where your zipper stop is going to go, and then you're going to probably have excess zipper, but we can cut that off at the end. We're not going to really worry about that too much. Now we're going to make sure we pin our zipper down, facing down towards your garment. Once we do that, we are going to the sewing machine. And what I like to do is I like to go from side to side with my zipper. I'm going to stitch first. I'm going to do a loose stitch around here on this side of the zipper. And then I'm going to do another loose stitch on this side. That keeps it in place. So as I use my zipper foot to, or sometimes I don't even use my zipper foot, you guys. I use a regular zipper foot when I'm doing just the regular zippers. But to each his own, you do what works best for you. So I'm going to, after I get both these sides, stitch on each side, I'm going to take my pins out. Then I'm going to lay my fabric straight down, and then I'm going to flip it over to the front. And then I'm going to zip going down as close to the zipper as I can. You can feel the teeth in here. So I'm going to place my zipper foot down, and I'm going to zip as close as seems we can, and then I'm going to turn it, and then it's going to go upside down once you turn it, and then I'm going to continue to zip going this way. Okay, you guys, now that you see we have installed our zipper, yay, time to celebrate, zipper's installed, yay. So now that we've installed our zipper, I went ahead and I put the shorts together and I stitched them on the side. I stitched at the side seam, and I serged mine because I do like mine to be serged on the end to be finished off. But I will not lie, I was a bit lazy. I didn't feel like changing out my serger thread, and so I kind of still use my black serger thread instead of the white one. But you know, hey, to each his own. It still looks beautiful. So I'm going to turn it inside out, or right side out, I should say. So, okay, you guys, our shorts is complete. All we have to do is add our waistband and hem the bottom of our shorts, and we are good to go. So excited. I cannot wait till it's done. And we just completed our own DIY. We took a pattern and we made our own. You guys should be celebrating and congratulating yourself. Thank you guys again for watching. You guys have a wonderful and awesome day.